What's up, y'all? So today we are going to be talking about more of the darn tomfoolery that comes out of DC. So unless you've been living under a rock or, quite frankly, protecting your peace and not paying attention to the loudmouths up on Capitol Hill, this past Sunday, there was another absolutely ridiculous spending bill that was proposed by the idiots that somehow got elected into office. And that was the Emergency National Security Supplemental Appropriations Act of 2024. Honestly, that mouthful right there should tell you everything you need to know, because that is the most ridiculous thing since supercalifragilistic. You know what? You guys get the idea. So let's dive straight into what this bill actually is about and where your money is actually being sent to. So obviously we all know that this is a very important topic, but let's be honest here, it's a little bit boring. So I'm going to, or actually Barry is going to, time code and list everything. So if you guys want to go specifically deep dive into any of these topics, you can go find them yourselves. So the Senate just released this quote-unquote border security bill, which arguably, in my personal opinion, has next to nothing to do with actual border security and is just continuing an open border policy and this supposed catch and release, but instead of catching them and releasing them back into their own country, they're inviting them into ours, which... is that a border, or is that just absolutely nothingness? The idea that in 2024, we cannot simply define these terms and stick with it and then follow the rule of law absolutely baffles me. It's like trying to argue with a 4-year-old that's already made up their mind. But instead, the 4-year-old is on Capitol Hill, has absolute power, and it seems like we have nothing that we can do to stop them. So, of course, the media and the Democrats are spinning this to say that the Republicans hate border security right now because we're just trying to push this Trump agenda because we didn't want to vote on a bill that had really nothing to do with what the bill's title was about. So this statement came from that certain house on Pennsylvania Avenue, which says, for too long, we all know that the border has been broken. No doubt. We've been arguing this for 4+ years now. It has been a long past time to fix it. That's why 2 months ago, I instructed my team to begin negotiations with a bipartisan group of senators to seriously and finally address the border crisis. For weeks now, that's what they have done, working around the clock through holidays and over weekends. Do you want a gold star? You guys were elected by us to represent us in DC, and now you're going to complain and then act all high and mighty because you are doing the job that you signed up to do? Let's be clear, what's been negotiated would, if passed into law, would be the toughest and fairest set of reforms to secure the border that we have ever had in our country. That is the biggest bold-faced lie I think I've ever heard. You guys have had 4 years to deal with this issue, and you've completely avoided it because arguably this is an issue that only conservatives or patriots or Republicans care about. This was what Donald Trump fought so hard to defend and to protect. And it's a world that we live in today where because Trump supports it, we all automatically have to be, in the Democrat Party at least, against it because Orange Man bad. You've been working on it for 2 months? What happened to the 4 years that went by? Sorry, but you don't get any sympathy from me. I have literally heard for the past 4 years, over and over and over again, people from Joe Biden's White House staff say that the border is secure and it is the best that we have ever seen in a while.
The United States will continue to enforce our laws and secure our border.
The border is, in fact, secure.
A record 221,000 migrants crossed into the U.S. last month.
Our border is secure. We believe certainly that the border is secure.
1,300 migrants a day.
We have taken unprecedented action over the past year and a half to secure our border and rebuild a safer and orderly process system.
This year is on pace to be the deadliest year for migrants crossing into this region of Texas in recent memory.
The border is secure. The border is secure, and the border is not open.
Crossings are still at an all-time high, with Border Patrol reporting more than 1.8 million apprehensions from October 2021 through July.
The border remains closed. It is not open. We are turning away the majority of adults, but
the border is secure. The border is closed.
So we are offering solutions. That's what the Biden-Harris administration has been doing since day one.
This is worse now than it was before.
A record number of migrants this year, and the total could surpass 2 million by the end of September.
We're certainly doing a lot more to secure the border.
We have a secure border.
And we have a process in place to manage migrants at the border.
A record surge of migrants in New York City.
Over 2 million illegal immigrants crossing the southern border, an all-time record.
The border is secure.
We agree that the border is secure.
I don't know what your definition of secure is, but last I checked, that wasn't literal millions of people flooding into this country freely and openly, and then being bussed everywhere they would like to go, given cell phones and housing and food, meal cards, and taken better care of than our homeless or our veterans. You know, it was harder to get into the Super Bowl this past weekend than it is to get into the literal United States of America. It would give me, as president, a new emergency authority to shut down the border when it becomes overwhelmed. And if given that authority, I would use it the day I sign the bill into law. Further, Congress needs to finally provide the funding I requested in October to secure the border. This includes an additional 1,300 Border Patrol agents, 375 immigration judges, 1,600 asylum officers, and over 100 cutting-edge inspection machines to help detect and stop fentanyl at our southwest border. Here's a crazy idea. Stop getting on to Texas when we put up a border wall and have people go to the entrance, and you wouldn't need to do any of this. Besides the fact that this supposed bill literally has nothing to do with our border and more to do with the Ukrainian border, but we'll get to that later. Securing the border through these negotiations is a win for America. For everyone who is demanding tougher border control, this is the way to do it. If you are serious about the border crisis, pass a bipartisan bill and I will sign it. Actually, this is the worst way to have border control. You know what was a good way? Trump's initiative that he had in place that literally was one of the most secure borders that America has seen in a hot minute. But you know how this goes. Every 4 years, we always have to go from one extreme to the other. And then it's a do as I say, not as I do kind of world, especially when it comes to the Biden administration and the White House. More importantly than all this, let's talk about where all of your money is going and being wasted on. Money breakdown. Here we go. So in total, this bill was spending $118 billion, yes, billion with a B, of your tax dollars on literally everything but America. So here we go. $60 billion for Ukraine. That's over half of this entire bill. $20 billion for the border. Oh, great. Thank you. We'll actually see where that ends up being spent on, but you know, whatever. $14 billion for Israel. $2.4 billion for the Red Sea conflict. $4.83 billion for Pacific forces. What specific forces? Our Pacific forces? Other people's Pacific forces? I'm not sure. $10 billion for additional services in Ukraine and Gaza and the West Bank. Oh, lovely. I love seeing my tax dollars hard at work funding Ukraine and every other country than us. It's such a great feeling. The irony is this. The average American would tell you today that there's nothing going on our southern border. There's not a crisis. We're not being invaded. What are you talking about, you crazy conservative conspiracy theorist? But until it actually affects you and your lives, you're not going to know a dang thing. Now, I personally have literally lived on the southern border back in 2012 to 2016, and I could tell you many different stories that I have firsthand experience with, but I'm just going to tell you what I know from 2020 to 2024 today. And in the same sentence that they complain that there is nothing going on, cities like Denver, Colorado, and you know, Chicago and Illinois and New York are all being like, oh gosh, guys, actually we are overwhelmed. We're kind of struggling a bit here. Could you, Texas, maybe please stop shipping us, you know, busloads in the dark of night? The one good thing Greg Abbott actually did was prove to these liberal cities and these liberal states that, hey, this is something you guys voted for. The president administration supports this. And if Texas has to deal with it, so do the rest of you, because you guys were all the ones that said we would open our arms and our homes with happy hearts. But the second any of us ask you to actually house any of them, it's, oh, actually, no, I can't. I'm not in the position to do that right now. I would just rather the tax dollars pay for this, and forget all the homeless and the veterans. They can deal with it themselves. The numbers do not lie. Over 235,000 were in just December of 2023 alone. And that's not counting the other, you know, 3 years prior, and this year. It's only February of 2024, and we are struggling down here. Seriously struggling. And if the average American does not see this and then change their vote for fall of 2024 to make sure that this next presidential election actually goes in the direction of the American citizen, we will suffer 10 times worse than this. At this point, everybody has to know what Title 42 is and what Joe Biden did to it. Now, if you're actually concerned about what previous administrations said about this, even just Barack Obama's Secretary of Homeland Security said that 2,000 encounters a day would absolutely be a crisis.
And my staff will tell you, if it was under 1,000 apprehensions the day before, that was a relatively good number. And if it was above 1,000, it was a relatively bad number, and I was going to be in a bad mood the whole day. On Tuesday, there were 4,000 apprehensions. I know that 1,000 overwhelms the system. I cannot begin to imagine what 4,000 a day looks like. So we are truly in a crisis.
So riddle me this. How come the Biden administration, just a little over 10 years later, is casually saying that 5,000 encounters every day is just, you know, it's an average Tuesday. Nothing more, nothing less. We don't need to worry about it. Oh, American voter, please don't worry about where your tax dollars are going because, oh, in New York, they need 50 million to house, you know, all of the illegals that are there. But the homeless and the veterans and the people up there who are actually struggling to afford food or rent, yeah, they can just suffer on their own quietly. Speaking of 5,000 a day, this bill addresses it, and it says that in order for them to actually care about what is going on down here, 5,000 people have to enter every single day for a week straight in order for any initiative to actually be enacted. If you guys haven't, you know, done the math on that, that's about 35,000 a week. So what you're saying is that 4,999 people can enter every single day for the eternity of futures, and it doesn't matter. The law apparently doesn't do anything about it. I would also just like to make one thing abundantly clear. Specifically in this bill, it says that they don't count anybody under the age of 18 or anybody else that's not from Mexico. So I'm just throwing out this idea here that there might be some people that are saying that they're minors when they actually are not. Let's talk about the fact that Chinese is the largest growing nationality that is coming across our southern border. I would also just like to point out that China owns 384,000 acres of farmland in the United States, and also being the largest group or nationality of people coming across the southern border that all just so happen to be military-aged men, I kind of call into question what their purpose is coming here. And if we haven't seen something like this, you know, like in Sparta, you know, for, you know, a certain wooden horse that might be infiltrating us. I mean, they are an enemy of the state. That's not a lie. That's not far-fetched. They don't particularly like us. And if you've ever seen the TV show, The Man in the High Tower, you would already know that this has been a playbook role that is going to probably come true. Would I be surprised? No. Should that terrify all of us? Absolutely. One of the only reasonable arguments that Democrats have on the issue of border security is that these people need to seek asylum. My argument to that is this, though. Last I checked, when you were seeking asylum from a country that was persecuting you for whatever reason, you went to the neighboring country. You didn't travel halfway across the world just to get to Mexico so you could walk across the border in El Paso to get the free credit cards and the bus ride that takes you to New York and Chicago and to Denver. So on this official U.S. government website that says how to seek asylum in the U.S., there are criteria to see if you are eligible to seek asylum. And it covers things like race, religion, nationality, social groups, political opinions. Then it also says to file for asylum, you must already be in America. What? That's not how asylum works. You're supposed to be coming from a country that's actively persecuting you. And then also on this, there are forms that you have to fill out. You have to go through a process, but that's not what's happening right now in 2024. They are simply just walking over, and Border Patrol or the feds are just putting them in buses and shipping them everywhere else across America so they become some other tax dollars problem. The irony of everything is this. They just proposed a new quote-unquote border security bill that has almost nothing to do with our border, but everything to do with Ukraine's border. But there's been another bill that's been sitting here, but no one wants to talk about it because it actually kind of does what the bill says that it's going to do. And that is HR 2, which it would limit the ability of the Department of Homeland Security to provide paroles to aliens. Which, by the way, does anyone else find it ironic that we're quote-unquote paroling illegal aliens inside of our country? As my producer says, we should drive them 5 miles back into Mexico, give them a gallon of water from a milk jug, and then say, see you guys can't come in here unless you do it the legal and the correct way. Which is what I think we should all do. That's what the law says to do. Why is this so hard? So other things the HR 2 would do is it would require all employees to use E-Verify, a federal web-based system that allows public and the private sector to employers to confirm that employees are eligible to work in the United States. Seems reasonable. Seems like a good thing to have, you know? You would want to make sure that the person that you're hiring was legally, supposed to be here. Because, by the way, they can get in trouble when they hire people that the government deems that they're not supposed to. So, just throwing that out there. HR 2 would also require DHS to resume activities related to building the wall along the southern border of the United States as planned under the construction before January 20th of 2021. Good Lord. Thank you, please. Yes, I would love that. That would be fan-freaking-tastic. Also, as my producer just astutely pointed out to me, what is significant about January 20th of 2021? Oh, yeah, that's the day that Grandpa Joe officially went into his retirement home on Pennsylvania Avenue. If you put this border bill onto Google search, every single headline that comes up talks about how the Republicans in the GOP shot this down because, one, we hate border security, but two, we're trying to uplift Trump's campaign, when that is literally the furthest thing from the truth. We have been pushing this for the past 4 years, arguably since the existence of the Republican Party in the first place. But HR 2 has been sitting here for months. We've been talking about it. No one else has. And then all of a sudden the Democrats come out of the weeds with this that has really nothing to do with the border, everything to do with Ukraine, and we say, yeah, we're not going to support this because it's 370 pages of BS and it has nothing to do with really helping America and closing our border and giving us the security that Americans demand? Not that hard to comprehend. I don't think our founders ever had the idea that we would be at this point where we can literally put anything in a bill and make it however long we want it to be, from 370 pages to 4,000, and we have to pass the bill so we can read it. You know, I was a part of this organization called Teen Pack, which taught young high school kids how our government is supposed to work, at least. And in that, we all got to write mock bills. One of the rules were that our bills had to be on a single page. It could be front and back, but one page. Could we do that in Congress? Could we do that in the Senate? Could we force people in DC to do that as well? Because when these politicians go there and they get elected, they have the opportunity to put whatever they absolutely desire in these bills, because they have to make sure that their supporters and everyone who gave them a little bit of money on the campaign trail gets their, share of the meat, their piece of the pie, because everybody knows that these bills are not for you, but they're to line our dirty politicians' pockets and have their shady deals underneath dark tables and in corners. It's never actually for us, but we sure do be the ones that suffer. Anyway, that's enough talk about the idiots in DC. Remember, if you like this video, please subscribe, like, hit that bell, and go follow me on my other social media platforms, because Lord knows when I'll be put in timeout next.